that's where you are.
Yeah, and it's really lovely because a friend, well, a student who I teach who comes from Providence in Rhode Island has come all the way over as well. So it's lovely to actually meet a student who I've only ever seen before on Zoom and go out for a meal and chat and get to know each other better. And she's coming to a workshop I'm doing in the morning as well.
Providence, that's near me. Providence,
Is it?
Rhode Island, because I'm
Yeah.
in Boston.
She comes from Providence, the one in Rhode Island. I've always loved that song.
Yeah. Hi, Dan. Right.
Hello.
Hello. So, Dan and Sheridan, you both have a copy of the music?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay.
Okay, so shall I start with this, and then anybody who misses the beginning can rewind it and watch it in any case?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Colin.
Okay, well, I did it because I realized that I'm not very voluble, but I had run out of time in the last session, and I'd sent this out, so I thought, well, I will do it and talk a bit about Vangelis and this particular piece. Now, whenever you do a piece of music, there's always more to it than just the notes on the page, and even the version that you might know. There's a whole history of the person who's written it and of other contributing factors that make you love a piece of music. Now, Vangelis has been a long-time favourite of mine because he worked with an English singer, a guy called John Anderson. And John Anderson was the lead singer in my favourite band of the 70s, 80s and 90s called Yes. And I've done a few of their pieces. And I was very lucky to see them in their early days as a big group in the town I lived called Hemel Hempstead. And they played at the pavilion in Hemel Hempstead. And it sort of changed my life, really. I bought all their albums. I listened to all the music. The guitarist, wonderful player called Steve Howe. And he later played in a band called Asia. But it was John Anderson's voice and his strange concept of lyrics which made me a real fan. And later on, Vangelis had already been writing his sort of multi-synthesizer music for films, a bit like Hans Zimmer before. And maybe without Vangelis, you wouldn't have had Hans Zimmer and his sort of style of doing things. But Vangelis paved the way for that. And with John Anderson, just one more thing about that link, he did an album, they called it Friends of Mr. Cairo. And that was all based around, Nadia will recognize this, all based around events in the film Casablanca. You know, you must remember this. Da-da. And I guess Vangelis, you know, he loved all kinds of piano music. And that was a bit of an influence in his style of thinking about how to fit the music to a film, which was done so superbly in Casablanca, especially with that song. And then another nice thing that happened is the American know Mr. Bean, who's the comedian Rowan Atkinson, and he's been in many great things in this country. And he did a spoof version of this in the character of Mr. Bean, playing with the London Philharmonic Orchestra with Simon Rattle. And in it, he's just got to play one note. And actually, when you look at my score, you think, okay, well, I've put down the beginning a C. I've put the tonic there. You can actually make that the dominant. But I didn't like the sound of it so much on the uke. If I was doing the low G, then it might have worked better. But he plays this note all the way through the piece. And it's all he has to do until the very end. So he's just going to... He has to blow his nose at some point. So he reaches back for a thing and he ends up playing it with an umbrella. Don't ask me why, it was just that. And then they show films. So if you want to look up for a great version of this, then look up Rowan Atkinson, London Philharmonic, and Simon Rattle doing Chariots of Fire. And it is a lovely, it just sort of, it amused me at the time. And when I watched it again when Vangelis died, and I thought I must do that tune again. It's a nice idea. Okay, so I've got this kind of pedal point drone, and then in bar 3, emphasize it a bit, you can see that it's the melody and the harmony at the same time. If you look at the last note in bar 3, you've got this stem going up for the melody note, but it's also got the stem note for the harmony as well. So the melody and the harmony are the same. And then you're going. And I'm just putting the harmony on the first beat of the bar. Then at bar 21, I'm changing the pattern. So I get on the first, I get the harmony with the G there. Then I'm playing. I'm just doing that with thumb and first finger, P and I, just to get that. Then in bar 33, notice I change the harmony because my melody note is a C now. Before it's either been a G or an E. So, but when it goes to a C, I'm changing the harmony to the, using the M finger on the E string. Then that, if you like, in folk music, you could call that the A tune. And now you've got the B tune. So what he does, he goes into E minor. Now, there's a specific way that I play that first E minor in bar 38, 37, where I sort of rotate the wrist. My fingers are all in that pima. But as I do that, my A finger, with a bit of nail on it as well, if you can, comes off last, which means the melody note is slightly after the harmonies, and it really highlights it. Okay, and that's a nice technique to have. You have to have a stillness before it. Nadia, when she's teaching, she talks about, well, you know, as a pianist, you might use this idea of flying to a note, using a helicopter or something to get to the right place before you actually play. So you're there. So you need to have your fingers, and I call this a default position, where this pima, it's such a natural thing for me to have. My wrist might look odd and some people don't play it like that. But for me, that's what works. I can come to that and it flies to there. And notice the G7 that time, rather than the G as it would. Then I took a liberty in the next one because I didn't want to just do the same thing again. So I put in a legato effect. You can play it with which finger, but you've already had a 3 there. Then it repeats that, just that section up to bar 36. You could even do that slide, another legato idea, in bar 47 to get to that 3. Now in the second time ending bar, this is where you might have problems and you might think, okay, enough, just go back and play the original, go back to the first theme and do it in that octave. But one of the things that appealed to me about Chariots of Fire was the fact that you could play it in 2 different octaves. The main theme, it's difficult to play that part because you're ending up with the 14th fret and it doesn't sound pretty and it doesn't work. But here you can go to a C note. This is where you got the chord F, and this is in bar 56. And then you're into this bar F chord. So you need a strong bar to be able to play this. And then you play that with 1 and 3. And that might be a bit of a trick to do that lateral movement. And if you can't, you can use another F chord to harmonize that one. If I was teaching this, I would say, well, do you know the 4 ways of playing an F chord, which will give you the four, it's like an inversion, but it's not really, because you've got the same bass note sometimes. But you can do an F like that, 2013, 201, and you can add your little finger there or some finger, so you get that. The next one is this one, and the next one is this one, 10, 9, 8, 12. So in this section, you could actually do it. You could do that. But I like, if I'm doing a chord up high, if I can add a lower note into it, I will. So that's why I do that one. Now, another thing that you might choose is, instead of playing that 8 there in the F bar, the first bar of this new section, and get to that where you need to move that over, you could play the note there. It's a C, so you've got a C on the 5th fret of the G string, and then go into more of a full strum on these. How are we doing for time? I don't want to overload into your next one. Okay, and what else happens? Then you go through that section twice to bar 70, repeat it from bar 55, play the second ending, do that one again, and that dies al coda takes you all the way back to the sign, which is in bar 37. Go through it once. With these. And then you do the coda, which is bar 72 or 3 or 4. And that's the note. And you could do a slow down to the ending. When you watch the Rowan Atkinson version, you'll find that he's gone to sleep for part of this, and he's dreaming about the race in the Chariots of Fire film, where he cheats to win. He gets in a car to get to the front and trips the other runners up and silly things like that. But then he wakes up and he's still doing that note, and Simon Rattle looks at him, annoyed, Rattle you might say, and doesn't say anything, but points to him, and he scurries through all his sheets of paper, which just had this one note. It's like being a triangle player in some orchestral pieces where you've got to count 89 bars of rest. And so he finds that he's got to play a ending, which he imitates doing it all. And it's a great way of ending it. So a sad but happy thing. You can be glad that Vangelis lived, because he gave such great music, and especially this work that he did with John Anderson, which I loved so much. And he gave us this wonderful tune. Simplicity itself, but there's no reason to think that music should be difficult to be beautiful. Sorry, I can't hear you.
Sorry. Oh, sorry. Thank you so much, Colin. I just have one very short request. Could you tilt your camera a bit more so we can see your right hand? And could you just show us how you do the ostinato? If you could tilt it a bit more, because I still can't see your right hand very much.
Which bit?
Yeah, that's it.
I'm just doing I am.
Okay.
You could do just any finger works really, but as it's in, I didn't say the obvious things, like this is in 3/4 time, so you can do. And the other one, if you couldn't see, is that roll. Yes, it's problem of not being at home and with cameras set up, having a hotel.
No, this is great. Thank you.
Okay, well, enjoy. Yeah.
Ask a question. I'm just curious about what program do you use for your composing?
Sibelius. I was lucky. I was in with Sibelius when it was first released, when I was a school teacher, and I've just upgraded ever since. I talked to people. I was talking to Matthew Quilliam today at Huddersfield, and he would say, yeah, he has to subscribe and he has to pay 100 years to subscribe because it was taken over by an American company. It was devised by two guys who were twins, whose name was Finn. And that was why they chose the name Sibelius, because he was a Finnish composer. And so that's what I use. Finale will do the same thing. When Sibelius brought out their number 5, I think they're at number 8 or 9 now, version, they had the ukulele on it, but with the strings the wrong way round. So I wrote to them and said, you must correct this. So they did. So that's why you can use Sibelius on ukulele these days. But that does everything I need.
I've found there's a program I use called MuseScore
Yeah.
that isn't for free, is actually quite sophisticated, and also allows you to do, ukulele tab or even orchestral scores if you want.
MuseScore is good. I use that often if I'm looking for a score to work on. I will go to MuseScore to see what is already about. And you get wonderful things like I'm working on Bach's Chaconne at the moment. And that I found the version that Schumann did for violin and piano was there on MuseScore, totally free. No, it's not totally free. You can upload like you can with Scribe.
Yeah, you can subscribe to it, and then actually anybody who's contributed a score is welcome to share it with you.
Yeah, no, it's a good one. Any more questions?
Well, thank you so much, Colin.
A
Yeah,
pleasure.
thanks very much. All
Enjoy
right.
the rest. Oh, and a strange thing that I was with you last time with Peter Longo, and of course he's at Huddersfield now. So I saw him today at the Carla stand. So it's a nice small world in the ukulele.
It's good. It's good.
Okay, take care. Have a
Thank
lovely
you.
evening, the rest of you.
Take care.
Bye bye.